good morning everyone, and welcome back to another video. This week I am doing some bits and pieces to start the electrical installation in the bus, which is pretty exciting. The electrical side of the conversion is probably the biggest, most challenging, certainly for me, and certainly the most expensive part of this whole bus conversion. So it's a little bit exciting, but also kind of nerve-wracking to be finally starting it. Now, I'm not going to be doing all of the electrical installation myself. I'm going to be doing the ultra low voltage aspects of the installation. So things like the 12-volt lighting, the fans, the water pump, all of that kind of stuff. I'm going to have a crack at doing it myself. But when it comes to the mains power side of things, so all of the 240 volt installation, I'm going to be getting a licensed electrician to do that. Now, the main reason for that is that here in Australia, it's actually illegal to do your own 240 volt installation. You actually need to have a licensed electrician do that work and sign it off to be legal. So that's the main reason why I'm doing it. But also because I don't want to take any risks with this bus, and I want to make sure that everything is done correctly and as safely as possible. And as well as the 240 volt side of things, I'm also going to get the electrician to do my solar panel installation and to hook up the solar controller and the inverter and do the programming for all of that, so I know that it's done correctly and safely. Now, the bus is booked in to have all of that done in August, so I've got about a month between now and then to finish off a few things that need to be done to get everything ready so that the electrician can finish off the electrical install and we can get power hooked up in the bus. So the bus is a bit of a mess at the moment because I've got bits and pieces everywhere. This is some of my electrical conduit and cables and things that I'm going to be running soon. Basically what I've been mostly doing is just finishing off some of the wall cladding and cutting the holes for where the power points are going to go. So you can see I'm going to put one there, and this is actually one of the power points that I'll be installing, so it will go into the wall like that. And I've also done a little bit on this other wall that I built near the table. My table goes here, and there'll be another power point you can see in the wall here. And over here on the other side of the kitchen, again, I've just done a little bit more of the wall cladding. There'll be another power point going in the wall up there. And I've also, underneath the sink here, down here underneath the sink is where my hot water system will be. It's actually an electric system, and so I've also built this mounting here. There'll be a power point going in there. So that I can plug that in. I will also be doing a little bit of extra cladding in the walls here after the cables are run, because the idea of this is that the cable for this is going to be coming up along the floor here, up through. I've got a hole drilled in the floor behind this wall here. It'll come up here to the power point, and then it will run from there inside this wall here. I don't know if you can see, up through a hole I've got in the back of this here, up to this other power point. So I've just been doing a few bits and pieces like this to make sure that where all the power points are going, that I've got the mounting sorted out for those, and I know where the cables are going to run. And back here, I'll just show you, this is the laundry area. You can see I've got another power point for the washing machine to go in here. And I will also be putting a power point underneath the vanity here so that I can plug my fridge in. So this is actually what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be sorting out the cladding on this wall and cutting the hole for the power point to go in here. And I'll just give you guys a sneak peek of what's behind me here in the electrical bay, because I've also been working on this in the last couple of weeks. This down here is a lithium iron phosphate battery. I'm actually going to be having 3 of these, so there'll be another 2 batteries on top of that one. And as you can see, I've got my multi-plus inverter charger here and a whole bunch of other stuff that I've mounted to the wall in the electrical bay. Now, I did not put any of this together. My electrician has supplied all of this. I only have a very rudimentary understanding of everything here, so this is a bit of a learning curve for me as well. For now, I just wanted to get it all mounted on the wall to make sure it was going to fit and that I had space for the cables to run where I needed them to run. But I will definitely be talking you through the system and showing you the full setup once it's all done. So my plan for this section of the wall here is to clad it with the same kind of tongue and groove that I've used on the other walls. I could just use ply to cover this and cut a hole in the ply, but it's actually easier for me to use the tongue and groove boards and to do each one at a time and then cut the hole in them than it is to cut a whole piece of ply and get the hole in exactly the right spot. And the tongue and groove's pretty lightweight, so I'm happy to go with that. It also means if I ever want to take it off to inspect the cables and things in the future, the tongue and groove is really easy. I can just unscrew it and take it off. Otherwise you would have to try and remove the entire wall if I wanted to get behind the sheet of ply. So that's what I'm going to be using, and you can see I've put this, I had this stud here already to screw the boards onto, but I've put this extra one in here because it's the right distance from this one to be able to screw in a power point. So there'll be a power point going sort of about there, and I'll be able to plug my fridge into that, and there'll be a spare plug if I need it for something else as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the floor and I'm going to do the cladding up from there, and then when I get to this section here there'll be a board that I need to cut the hole in for this power point. Alright, so this next board is the one that I want to cut the hole for the power point in. So I just want to make sure that when I cut it, the screws for the power point can go into these studs as well as through these boards. So I need to try and line the hole up to match these studs. So it's a little bit tricky. Alright, so I have my marks here, which if I line them up will tell me where the studs are behind this board. So I need to try and get my hole exactly between those two lines. Now these CMS power points don't come with any sort of template at all, but I have this, which is a mounting block for the power points. I bought this ages ago because I was going to actually use it to mount one of them, and I won't be using it now, but it's come in really handy because this hole in the mounting block is pretty much the hole that needs to be cut in the wall, so I can use that as the template. And I'll just sort of line it up, try and get it as straight as I can and as close to the center of the board as possible so that I minimize the risk of this splitting. Alright, so there is my line for the hole that I have to cut. So I'm just going to cut that out with the jigsaw, and hopefully this will fit in it. Alright, so that fits pretty well. What I'm going to do now is just get this board screwed into position in the bus, and hopefully this hole will be in the right place between those studs, and if it is, I can go ahead and screw in this power point. Okay, God, it's awkward under here. Alright, so there's my board in position, and it's pretty much perfectly flush with the stud on this side. It's a bit crappy in this corner here. But the PowerPoint does actually fit in there quite nicely, so I'm just going to go with that. The thing I don't like about the design on these PowerPoints is that the holes, like where you need to screw, is very close to the edge of the hole that you need to cut. Like the screws are going to be basically going in right on the edge of this, which means that there's a fairly good chance of this splitting, and it's quite annoying. Like, I don't know why they can't just put the holes a little bit further away, but anyway. It's a bit of a crappy design, but it is what it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw this board into the studs here to get it sitting in the right position, and then I'm actually going to pre-drill these holes where the little screws are going, and hopefully that will mean that this won't split when I come to screw the PowerPoint in. I'm also pre-drilling the holes in the ends of these tongue and groove boards, because where the screws of these have to go at each end is quite close to the edge. So on each board I've been pre-drilling and countersinking the hole before I put the screw in. Well, that's it done. I'm pretty happy with that. The cable for that PowerPoint should be nicely protected behind that wall. Alright, well that was the last of the PowerPoints that I needed to cut the holes for. So I'm just going to go around the bus now and make sure that anything else that needs to be finished off before I can start running the cables is all done. So things like, have I got holes where I need them to be? Do I need to do any more little bits of framing or wall cladding? All those little fiddly bits and pieces finishing off things. I'm just going to go around and make sure they're all done, and then I'll be ready to start running the electrical cables.